Hello, my name is Sandeep. In this session, let's explore the ER model of entities involved with unified routing. We can broadly categorize UR entities to be belonging to either configuration or runtime scope. Under configuration, we will explore the entities involved in modeling UR user, entities involved in enabling record routing, workstream related configuration defining the types of work being routed, and queue related configuration defining how work will be distributed to agents in the queue. Under runtime, we will explore how entities are involved when a record gets routed through the UR system and explain when an instance of each of them are created and relation between each other. Let's begin with how a UR user is modeled. Users are modeled using standard system user entity, and table and row privileges are modeled using system user roles and role entity. There is no deviation over here from the standard modeling of user and table row privileges. UR users can be categorized into three types of persona: the admin, the supervisor, and the agent persona. The admin persona can set up end-to-end workflow to handle customer interaction using unified routing. Supervisor personas are expected to manage the agents and their work items. The agent persona can manage the work items that are assigned to them. The roles are mapped to different user persona types using MS-driven persona security role mapping table. Any user having a role which is mapped to a specific persona type is deemed to be of such persona. When a role is mapped to a persona, a new row in MS-driven security role mapping table is created with MS-driven security role ID referring to the role that is being mapped, and MS-driven persona type field referring to the persona option to which the role is being mapped to. UR ships with few roles and persona mapping out of the box, which are omnichannel administrator role, which is mapped to admin persona, omnichannel supervisor role, which is mapped to supervisor persona, omnichannel agent role, which is mapped to agent persona, CSR manager role, which is mapped to admin and supervisor persona, customer service representative role, which is mapped to agent persona. Customers are free to either use one of the out-of-the-box roles or define their own custom roles with personas as required. Agent availability in the system is modeled as presence associated to the user. Presence in a system is modeled with MS-driven presence table. System supports modeling presence to 5 base presence statuses: available, busy, busy DND, away, and offline. 5 presences named similarly as the base presence statuses are shipped out of the box, and customers can define their own custom presences by adding new rows to MS-driven presence table and mapping the MS-driven base presence status column to one of the MS-driven base presence status option, and recording the display value for the same in MS-driven presence status text. Let's look at the additional columns to system user table. MS-driven capacity. MS-driven capacity is used to capture the default unit capacity assigned to the user. We'll get to capacity when we discuss more about work items and the work stream. MS-driven default presence ID user, which is a lookup to MS-driven presence table, is used to record the default presence state to set the user upon login onto one of the presence enabled apps. Next, we will look at how agents and skills are modeled. Unified routing uses already existing paradigm of modeling skills and associated proficiency to the user. This is done with skill modeled as characteristic entity, which has two main columns: name and characteristic type. Proficiency on a scale is modeled with rating value and rating model table respectively, where rating model represents the different scale used to measure the proficiency. Example, low high scale as against 1 to 100 scale. The rating values here represents the individual values within this particular scale. Say for example, in the low high scale, low, medium, high might be the three values that are represented, and in 1 to 100 scale, 1, 2, 3, 4 till 100 might be the 100 values that are represented within the rating value. Talking about the columns of the rating model, display name on the Rating model is represented in name column. Minimum and max integer unit value representable on the model is stored in min rating value and max rating value columns. Each distinct value of the rating model scale is modeled as a new row in rating value table and associated to the rating model. Talking about how the user is associated with skill, each user is associated with one and only one bookable resource of type user, and each skill and proficiency mapping for the user is recorded in bookable resource characteristic table, with resource column referring to the user's bookable resource and the characteristic referring to the skill being associated to the user, rating value referring to the proficiency of the user with the specific skill. Capacity profile. Capacity profile is modeled with MSDN capacity profile entity with main attributes being MSDN block assignment, indicates if consumption of the same is expected to block other channels, MSDN default max units, indicating the max unit allotted on the particular capacity profile. MSDN reset duration indicates if and when the units in the profile is consumed, can the agent be assigned new work item. User to capacity profile mapping is again done via bookable resource, with the MSDN bookable resource capacity profile being the join entity between capacity profile and bookable resource associated to the user. Let's move on to configuration around setting up entities for record routing. This involves registering the entity for record routing and configure the intake rules for the same. Intake rules for the record define the workstream to be used to route the work items with. The registration of entity for record routing is recorded in table MSDN master entity routing configuration, and the associated intake rules are recorded with decision rule set associated with the same with MSDN rule set ID column as on the master entity routing configuration table. Moving on to workstream configuration. A workstream is a container to enrich, route, and assign work items. A workstream is modeled with MSDN live workstream entity. MSDN stream source defines the channel type of the workstream. For record routing, this will be entity records. MSDN master entity routing configuration column identifies the entity type, case, lead, or foobar that will be routed with the workstream. MSDN work distribution mode defines the mode of work item assignments to agent, supported mode being pick or push. MSDN capacity format defines if the work items will consume agent unit capacity or one of the capacity profile associated to the work item. If unit-based capacity is selected, MSDN capacity required defines the amount of agent capacity consumed per work item. MSDN allowed presence list one or more presence statuses of the agent for them to be considered eligible for assignment. Along with route to queue rule set used to define the queues that can be assigned to the work item, workstream can be configured with one or more classification rule sets to enrich the work item with additional data such as context items, skills, capacity profile, or to update related entity field values. MSDN decision rule set associated to the workstreams are extended with MSDN routing configuration step to define the MSDN step order, which indicates the order of sequence in which the rule sets are expected to be run against the work item, and MSDN type defining the type of rule set. The type of rule set supported being enrichment, skill identification, and queue identification. All the MSDN routing configuration steps are grouped with MSDN routing configuration and associated to the parent MSDN live workstream. Let's move to assignment configuration. Queues are used to collect and distribute workloads among agent. Queue membership is managed with the standard mapping entity queue membership. MSDN is omnichannel queue column on the queue identifies the queue being UR queue. MSDN queue type identifies the UR workload the queue can handle. MS-driven agent strategy defines the type of strategy that has been selected for the queue for assigning work items in the queue to the agents of the queue. Omnichannel agent assignment strategy refers to the out-of-the-box highest capacity strategy, where work items will be prioritized in the order they enter the queue and assigned to agents with the highest available capacity. Round robin is one more out-of-the-box strategy where work items will be prioritized on the order they enter the queue and agents are assigned work items in round robin manner. Custom assignment strategy, as the name suggests, allows customers to define custom work item prioritization and agent assignment strategy. Work items can be deflected from the queue assignment based on the operating hour associated with the queue during queue evaluation. MS-driven operating hour column refers to the operating hour used by the queue. An instance of custom assignment strategy is modeled as MS-driven assignment configuration, with MS-driven QID referring to the queue for which the assignment configuration is linked, and MS-driven is active configuration defining which among the multiple configuration is active for the queue. For a given queue, only one assignment configuration can be active at a time. The underlying prioritization and assignment rule sets are defined with MS-driven decision rule set, but extended with MS-driven assignment configuration step to define the type of rule set with MS-driven type column and the ordering between them with MS-driven step order column. Let's move on to runtime entities and look at what stage while the work item is being routed through the system, the entities are created and associated with. For instance, let's consider a case being routed in the system. Once the routing is initiated, intake rules associated to the entity are evaluated. Workstream to which the record needs to be routed through is identified if any intake rule succeeds. Once workstream is identified, a request is sent to your system for routing the record with the same. A work item and session record modeled as MS-driven OC live work item and MS-driven OC session respectively are created. Work item is a wrapper for the record that is being routed in the system and models a life cycle and route of additional information captured for the life cycle of the routing in the system. Work items are associated to one or more sessions and are used to model the agent interaction for the routing instance. With running of workstream classification and route to queue rules, a queue to which the work item needs to be routed is finally identified. This follows with queue item record being created, referring to the record being routed with the object ID column, workstream through which it was routed with the MS-driven live workstream ID column, queue to which it is routed to with the queue ID column. The queue reference is also recorded in workstream and session with MS-driven CDS queue ID attribute. And the work item is further handed over to assignment system for agent assignment. The work item remains in open state until the agent manually picks or is assigned a work item by a supervisor, or if the work stream is configured for push-based work distribution when assignment system identifies a suitable agent. Once the agent is identified, the associated system user reference is updated into the queue item with worker ID field. A new session participant record associated to the open MS-driven OC session is created with system user reference recorded in the MS-driven agent ID field. The MS-driven session participant is also updated with the MS-driven joined on field as well, indicating when the work item was assigned to the agent. If in future the record is transferred to a different UR agent, the present active session record is closed and a new session and session participant record with the new agent information is created. With classification rules, work item can also be associated with capacity profile that needs to be used for assignment. This is captured by creating a mapping entity between capacity profile and the work item entity with the name MS-driven OC live work item capacity profile. Classification rules can also identify the skills and proficiencies that are required to handle the work item by the agent. And agent can also add or remove skills from the work item using different experiences. The skill associated to the work item is modeled as MS-driven OC live work item characteristic, mapping work item on the one side and characteristic and rating value on the other. MS-driven characteristic source on the same captures the source of the skill. If the skill was identified with intelligent skill finder model, MS-driven ML model ID attribute is populated with AI model reference, and MS-driven confidence with the confidence with which the skill was predicted. If the skill was manually added by the agent, MS-driven skill added by will refer to the system user who added the skill. MS-driven status captures the latest status of the associated skill if it is active or deleted. MS-driven OC session characteristic is modeled to capture the active skills that were associated to the session when it was in open state, that is prior to assignment. With this, we have come to the end of the session. Thank you, everybody.